I'm going to move on to the second politician. He represents the Norwegian Conservative Party, and he is also the head of the delegation to the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, Per Christian Foss.
Thank you very much. As a Conservative politician from Høyre, from the Conservative Party of Norway, I feel obliged also to thank Unge Venstre, young liberals you may call them, even if that in the European politics can be misunderstood. Thank Unge Venstre for this initiative to focus on the struggle for freedom that takes place in Belarus. We don't read too much in Norwegian papers about Belarus. I think Norwegians in general know that Belarus is a last dictatorship of Europe. And that brings me to the position where I have been discussing the situation in Belarus as a member of the Parliamentary Assembly in the Council of Europe. You may perhaps know that the Council of Europe is the oldest organization in Europe where all Europe take part. We have 47 members. Some call the Council of Europe a waiting room for membership in the European Union. That is not correct, fully correct. But partly because members, because the aim of the Council of Europe is to enhance values like democracy, freedom of speech, human rights, and the rule of law. And of course, there are not 47 countries of Europe who respect these values at the same time. But to be member, you must at least develop in the right direction. And we also try to take up as observers, as we give special guest status to countries that moves in the right direction. There is one example of a country who hasn't moved at all in these last 20 years in the direction of human rights, respecting human rights, the rule of law and democracy, and that is Belarus. So the dilemma for politicians in Europe is, should we isolate Belarus or should we try to establish contact? We have tried for the last, since the beginning of the 90s, to isolate Belarus. That has given no results. I mean, so far it hasn't affected Lukashenko at all. That he's not member of the Council of Europe, and I think it won't affect him as in the years to come either. But the Council of Europe tried to change its strategy in 2006. We invited the Speaker of the Belarusian Parliament, together with the opposition presidential candidate, to address the Assembly. To address the Assembly of the Council of Europe, a lot of people are invited in that respect. And they are not all of them Democrats, so just to remark that. And after that, representatives of the Council of Europe also visited Belarus, Minsk, in the years 2007 throughout 2009, and talked to the Parliament and talked with the opposition as well. In the light of the recent small steps in the right direction in Belarus, as well as the acknowledgement that isolation of the country did not improve the situation, the European Council voted in June this year in favor of restoring a special guest status of the Belarusian Parliament in the Parliament which now taking place in Strasbourg. The Assembly expressed its aim to engage in political dialogue with the authorities while supporting the strengthening of democratic forces and civil society, to quote the decision made at the time. But I think it's fair to say that this dialogue will take years with the experience we have with late Soviet countries like Belarus. But there are small steps taken in the right direction, in particular the release of opposition figures considered as political prisoners, the registration of the opposition movement for freedom, it's called, inclusion of 3 independent media outlets in a state distribution network, and the appointment of consultative councils involving civil society. The lifting of suspension should be accompanied by monitoring of the situation to assess whether the country is making, as it's called, substantive and irreversible progress towards the Council of Europe standards. That is the decision made. It will take years, I can not say promise you, but warn you. But it is the beginning of perhaps a contact that will lead to better situation for the opposition in Belarus, which we know exists. Last year, the Council of Europe established a so-called information point Minsk. That means an office where people, normal people, and all kind of people could take up information about the Council of Europe. You could arrange conferences, for example, with the Council of Europe coming from this office or invited through this office. This kind of information point, we have good experience from other countries that could lead to a small hole of breathing for the opposition. Just one day ago, the Council of the Nordic Council, which consists of the 5 Nordic countries and both ministers and parliamentarians from all these Nordic countries, decided at the meeting in Stockholm yesterday to establish also a information point for the Nordic Council in Minsk, with the same goal to try to establish contacts with the opposition and to give information about how the Nordic countries work together and work as nations, promoting, enhancing values like rule of law, democratic values and human rights. Just a small point of information. We cannot overdo this, but hope that it is a small step in the right direction of special support to the opposition taking place in Belarus. Thank you very much.